Well, hello everyone and welcome to The Basics of Life. My name is Ken Burkey, and with me, back by popular demand, the ratings went through the roof, Theresa McAdams is here. Theresa is, your title is very long.
Yes.
So you are involved in our community care team.
Yes.
And you oversee our Common Ground
Yes.
event every Saturday morning.
Every Saturday.
You're involved in global missions, and you were over our Mexico missions trip, and add on all the other stuff that you do, and it'll be a 30-minute show.
Oh, I think that about says it all.
Yeah.
So.
But what we want to talk about today a little bit, I wanted you to come in and talk about just this awesome thing that we get to do every summer, go to Mexico and serve, but then how kind of it's the ripple effect of that and kind of the counterintuitive things that happen. But Theresa, I'll speak for her for a second. Just she oversees 2 weeks going to Mexico, about 80 to 100 people that go down there.
Yep.
Yeah. So talk about what happens down there, because you know we're going down there to help people who are in need, obviously. So what do we do down there?
Well, we have 3 different things going at the same time. We build a home in the community. We send a team to a former landfill to serve breakfast there to the people living in that community. And then we also put on like a fun day kids camp for kids living at the orphanage that we stay at. So
there's a lot going on. Families go, kids go, and these are all places in Mexico, La Misión, Tijuana, that are places in need.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, everybody goes. We have everything from teenagers to retired people. People go by themselves. People go in family groups. It's kind of a trip for everybody.
Talk about the landfill, because the landfill is the garbage dumps of Tijuana that have been covered over and then sold back as property to people. Sometimes we think we have to go halfway around the world to see some pretty rough poverty, but talk about the poverty right across the border.
Yeah, you can actually, from some of the hills, you can see San Diego. And it is some of the most extreme poverty in the world, is right there an hour across the border. And it was an active dump about 8 to 10 years ago. And then they decommissioned it, filled it over with dirt, parceled off the pieces, and then sell it back. And so people have bought those parcels along the way, and then the further you get down into the canyon, there's just squatters.
And they say, we've heard anywhere from 35 to 40-year life expectancy if you grow up in the dumps from a baby because of the toxins.
Yes, and that's what it was when we first started going 8 years ago. That was the life expectancy. Since it's been closed the last several years, the life expectancy has gone up. But unfortunately, the dump is now opened again. The owner started using part of the dump again as an active landfill. So people are, scavenging for wire and scraps, and the toxins are just coming right back up. It's all being plowed back up again.
Wow. So it's interesting. People think they know poverty, but talk about some of the reactions of some of the Americans when they first show up to those garbage dumps. Sure.
Well, it's kind of funny because somebody who has been there will look at me and say, we need to show these pictures back at church. People need to see this. And what they don't realize is they've been seeing those pictures for years. It just doesn't hit you until you get out of that van and you step in that dirt and step in the garbage, until you smell the smells, until, the little kids come up and hold your hands, until it affects all your senses. It just doesn't sink in. So people are surprised that they haven't seen this before. And I'm like, you have, it's just different now.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so you could sit there, watch slides, presentations at church. Okay, but you can't smell it. I think that's smell-o-vision would be a really good invention, because it's a little bit. And I think the other thing, that at the same time, it's a really strange juxtaposition, because the kids are happy. I mean, so you have these kids living in this extreme closed garbage dumps, like you said, reopening, yet there's this joy that is really hard for an American to handle.
Yeah, this is their home. It's their neighborhood. It's where they've grown up. It's where they play. It's completely normal to them. That's their neighborhood. And and kids are kids anywhere.
Right.
And I don't think there's such a tight correlation between materialistic possessions and happiness. I mean, these people are definitely in need. They're in desperate need, but there's not such a tight correlation between their happiness and that need. They can still have joy.
Yeah, which is that does not make sense to an American at first, because you're like, well, my joy is tied to my life's great. I've got a future. Those kids are just in the right there and now, and they appreciate anything.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a church in the garbage dumps that we help. They do a breakfast club, and we do help when we go down there. I think we do.
Yes.
I mean, we do. We help people, build, roof their house so they don't have water leaking in. We do help, but I think the biggest thing and the joy that you've gotten out of is seeing the impact it's had and how it's helped us. Talk about that. How has that helped us become better people?
Well, I know for me personally, the first time I went and experienced all of it for the first time, when I came back home, I saw my house completely different. I thought, I have a floor. I can just go turn on running water, and it's even hot. Yeah. It's those kind of things that just you take so for granted, and it really does. All of a sudden you've got a castle. But my husband and I made an agreement. We're going to do this every year, at least once a year, because sure enough, time goes on as that year starts to pass. You're back to, we really need new carpet. This is, so you go and you get that, what I call the recalibration again. What's a real problem? Right. What's a real need? What is real stress in life? And you get that recalibration, and it really does. You come back, and it just makes your life so, you just see it different.
I think simpler and more content in its needs versus wants. And again, we live in America where we're constantly being told what we need, which we really don't need. It's all wants. And so we've talked about it. It seems like we do help them, but the poor help us too, to recalibrate, to readjust our priorities, to say what really matters. The other thing that they help with, it kind of ignites a bigger purpose to people's lives. When we've seen that with different friends. Talk about that. Yeah,
well, I've seen people, and it's kind of funny, we'll talk we interview everybody before we go to be part of this team, and people will say, well, should I bring this, or I'd like to do this, or how about we bring this and give them, a bunch of these things, and I like to just go for the first time and see and experience, and just take it all in. And it's amazing how it works out so somebody will just go, and then they'll find out that their business that they do at home, or they have some talent that they never knew would apply, and they think, oh, I could do this down here. This is where my experience will come into play. And so it's kind of neat to see something they never expected. A businessman who does something here sees that's how I can serve in that community. So.
Give a specific example of what happened this last year with a businessman.
Okay, we had a gentleman who his company is to do the freeway signs, and they put up the big billboards. And so when they change out the billboards, they have those left over. So this year he brought one to put under his tent in camp, and then we went into Tijuana, into the dump community, and he saw people that were with makeshift roofs that leak, just kind of plywood piecemeal together, and maybe a garbage bag, and another board leaned against it. So, and that is their roof. And so he went back, got his tarp out, or his billboard vinyl from under his tent, and he went, and him and another guy installed that as a roof for a woman, her children, and her grandchildren that were living in that home. And so
and waterproofed it, really.
Yep, watertight. And so he came back, and he's just fired up, and he now has, I call it a ministry, that he is going to make trips down installing roofs for people with these vinyls that would normally be thrown away, and it's somebody's roof down there.
So his goal is to roof the whole canyon, basically, and so he's got dozens and dozens of those vinyls getting ready to go down there. And so I think that's a great example because we've had people from Green Valley who've gone on these trips who've ended up moving down there because in retirement feeling called, and that's great. I mean, they are making a huge difference. That would not have happened without that trip, but it's really fun to see people come back home. This businessman, he's not called to go live down there. He's raising a family and all that, but now he's got this purpose, and when you talk to him, there's just huge excitement. And
who knew? He had no idea that his career would come into play serving in another country.
Yeah. Well, give a couple other examples just about our contractors. Talk about our contractors.
Oh, our contractors are amazing, and it's kind of funny if you look at them year one to now. We've been going down. We just did our 7th year down in Mexico, and the first year it was about building the house, and they were that's what their purpose was, is building a house. If you ask them now, the house gets built, but that's not why they're there. They are on the job site. We've got the teenage boys from the orphanage working alongside them. Our guys are showing them how to do roofing and how to frame a house. We've got also our young men that go on our trip, and they're working alongside them, showing them construction skills. The family will come and bring lunch. Everybody breaks, stop, visit with the family whose home we're building. And they know now it's about the relationship. They said the house will get built, but it's about working with these kids, working with each other. And I had a new person, a contractor this year, look around, and he said, I've never heard laughing and joking around on a job site like I've heard here. This is fun. So. But it's funny, if you ask them a few years ago, it was about getting the house done. Now it's like, oh, that'll get done. But this is what we focus on.
And that's the way God works. It's always about relationships. And we always think that it's us helping them, but it's really reciprocal. They're helping us. And it's kind of, the ground is level now. It's not like, oh, we're these rich Americans helping you poor people. It's like, no, we have relationships, and we're going to help you where we can help you, and they certainly help us. Like what you talked about, gain perspective and be more thankful.
And we have what I would call friendships down there. It's no longer just serving. It's going to see our friends. We have people that come back and serve alongside us from years ago that we may have built a house for. They know what weeks we come down there, and they'll take weeks off work to come work alongside our crew. And they'll bring food to our camp, and we know what's going on in their lives. We just had, in fact, one of the ladies who we served several years ago built a house, Griselda. Everybody knows Griselda. Her mother just passed away. So she was texting several of us, and we would text her back, and it's kind of amazing that relationship is at a different level now. It's friendships down there. So, and you can't outgive the people from La Mission. I've learned that. I learned that the hard way. We were invited to come to dinner at somebody's house, and this is somebody we built a house for in the past, so we know how little they have. And we had a team of like 45 people on that particular week, and she invited us for dinner. And I said, oh no, we can't do that. That's too much. That's going to be way too expensive. That we can't do that. Well. Then the pastor's wife drives up the road, and she gets out and she gets in my face and says, she wants you to come to dinner. Why do you think you're the only ones who can bless people? Wow. And I was, I got schooled. I felt, and I'm like, we're right. Why do we think we're the only ones that can go and have that amazing feeling of serving? It's, so her and the other ladies from church made dinner for our whole team, and it was a blessing to them. So we learned to accept those blessings.
Well, it's one of those, we always joke around because a lot of it gets accomplished on these trips for the people we're serving, but also to our hearts. I mean, we find out, yeah, they may be physically poor, but we find out we're kind of spiritually poor, or our souls are empty, and they kind of fill us up. Like their generosity, like you just said, is unbelievable. It's very, very humbling.
You can't outgive them, so
no.
I stopped trying.
Right.
It can't be done.
It's actually one of those mission trips where you work hard, you accomplish a lot, and you gain weight all at the same time because their love language is food.
Yes,
and so you're on the job site, and you turn every break, they've got tamales, and they've got again, it's about relationships. So I want to end with this part of it, and that is, I think part of an American lifestyle or a discipline is you got to keep going back. I think we've learned that through our work in DC, when we kept going back when it was hard, Mexico, Africa, because it's about relationships. And you've already talked about, but I think you can't overstate that, because that's where you really begin to grow. If you go on one trip, see poverty, you may feel like you've helped. It may help you for a little bit, but it's just talk about that, just the going back, why that's important.
It is, and like I say, you need that recalibration. We slip into our own old habits, and we had a teenager this year who talked about, I went without my cell phone for a whole week, and she said it was actually kind of freeing. I didn't feel compelled to always check my Facebook and see what my friends were doing. She said, I didn't have a cell phone for a week, and she said, I actually really liked that. Is it going to last? No. But if she keeps going back, that I really think those seeds are planted, and especially for the young people, I think it's huge for young people to go, because even if they've got their whole lives ahead of them, if their trajectory is ticked just a little bit because of something they saw or experienced, they will eventually make a different decision in their life based on this experience, and that's going to just set them on a different course in life. And I think of what, if I would have done something like this when I was younger, what would my life be like now?
It's turned out pretty good.
But it's like I say, and it's also, we have retired people who've gone down there maybe hesitantly and said, okay, well, we'll give this a try, not sure if this is our thing. I think of one gentleman said, well, I'll do construction, but don't put me with kids. I'm not a kid person. Well, I can't tell you how many pictures we have of him pushing kids on swings and them on his back. And so, he learned a lot on that trip too. And that same couple is now serving in our, there's a comfort level. They're serving in our community, working with the homeless, and it changed their lives. Yeah,
and I think that's a great point, is when you come back, it's hard to be the same even in your own community. I think your heart is bigger to serve, because again, not everybody's going to get called to move down to Mexico, but you can't help but be different when you come back in a good way.
Everybody is forever changed in a big way or a small way. And my favorite thing, which sounds horrible, is, for example, when Dave Hessler, who is now living there, on his first mission trip, I can remember standing in the kitchen down in La Mission with him and saying, so what's been the thing that's impacted you the most so far? And he started to tear up and had to turn away, and I'm like, yes! And I love that, because that means because it just shows, I love to see people's lives change and just see their eyes open to a different world. And that's my favorite part.
Well, and we're done. That's a perfect way to wrap it up. I will say this, though, because your kids and my kids have had the benefits. It is, man, if you go find a place and go as a family, because we have seen it, how it's impacted our kids. And it's hard raising kids in America, because they got to have the latest this and and so it preaches to them without us having to preach to them. They learn a lot. So thank you, Theresa, for your passion, and thank you for your cruelty, that you want people to cry and have their hearts broken. But it's an amazing thing. But I think our hope with it, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be our missions trip. It just has to go experience and serve the poor, and you will get more out of it, and you will learn from them just as much as you probably will help them. So
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Theresa McAdams. She will be back, we promise. So thanks for being with us here on The Basics of Life, and we will see you next time.